Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Dear Mr. Vernon, we accept the fact that we had to sacrifice a whole Saturday in detention for whatever it is we did wrong. But we think you're crazy to make us write an essay telling you who we think we are. You see us as you want to see us, in the simplest terms, in the most convenient definitions. But what we found out is that each of us is a brain, and an athlete, and a basket case, and a criminal. Does that answer your question? Sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club. Good evening and welcome to Three Guys in a Flick. This is where we review the good, the bad, and the absurd. Tonight's episode, The Breakfast Club. Beware, spoilers. Coming to you from my basement, my name is Don, and to my right we have our comic book guy, John.
Totally.
And to my left we have the professor, Ken.
Good morning.
Tonight we have a special guest, Ken's angel of a daughter, Katie.
Hello.
That's so cute. Do that again.
Hello.
So we are talking about The Breakfast Club. How you guys doing?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah?
Awesome.
Better now that I have a Diet Coke.
Nice. Did you know that Diet Coke has caffeine in it?
I do now.
Oh, there you go. The Breakfast Club comes to us as one of our fan picks. It was put into our fan selection by Tatiana. And she said that this was a fun movie for her growing up. She really loved it, and she threw it in the hat.
Well, thank you, Tatiana.
Yeah.
And as soon as I heard that, I knew that Katie would want to have everything to do with this because Katie loves this movie. It's probably her in her top 10.
Probably top 5 or top 3 even.
What?
Yeah.
I want to know, why does Katie like this movie?
It's so, there's something for everybody in it, right? I think that if whoever watches it, it might not appeal to people who haven't gone through high school. That would be my only thing I would say. But anyone who's gone through high school can definitely identify with at least one of the characters in some small way. So you feel like you're seeing yourself being represented as a time where you're struggling, and then they get through it and they come together.
You said top 3. What are the other two?
The other two are probably Little Miss Sunshine, which I really love. That was one of the first movies that made me laugh out loud really hard. And then Step Brothers, probably.
Really?
Yeah, I just watched that recently. It's so funny.
It is funny. It's probably
so
one of the
funny.
funniest comedies in the last 20 years.
It's so funny.
I love Step Brothers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's probably my
100%.
top 3 right now.
So if someone wanted to submit that one for us to review,
Yeah.
that would be a great idea,
It's-
Ronnie.
So back to what Katie said about the movie being relatable. I think that's one of the strong characteristics of this movie is how well you are able to have just about anybody watch this movie and you can relate to some degree to one of these 5 characters, or even the 6th character, if you will, of Vernon indirectly. I don't think people would want to relate themselves to him. But, one of these 5 boxes, definitely everybody probably has at some time or another felt something that one of these 5 characters felt during high school.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that, this movie came out, when we were all able to go see it in the theater, except Katie, you weren't born yet this movie still relates to kids today. That's just amazing to me.
It's timeless. These problems are the exact same. The other thing I wanted to say about why this movie is so amazing is it's incredible what they can do with such a simple set and costume design. It's in one room the whole time. I mean, you have the other hallway scenes, but it's just like if you look at like any Marvel movie today, geez Louise, are those over the top? And it's like Breakfast Club is just so simple.
You bring up a great point too, and you can look at each of the characters just by their costumes and identify which clique they fall into.
Yeah. And it was done very deliberately, right? And,
Yes.
and that's what you're supposed to see.
Yes.
And what goes along with that is if you're going to have a film or if you're going to tell a story in one location, the writing better be solid, because if the writing isn't solid, you're not going to care. And fortunately for John Hughes, The Breakfast Club is it's timeless, like you said, Katie. It's timeless writing. And going back and watching it today, does it completely hold up? Well, no, we do live in a different day and age than we did in 1985, but the core of it and the heart of it very much does hold up and is still an outstanding film.
And the point that you bring up about timeless writing, he wrote this in 2 days, which is just amazing.
That's nuts.
That still it lives up today. But there was a lot of ad-libbing that we'll talk about later that went on during this movie. Judd Nelson alone ad-libbed a lot of his parts, and it's amazing how it came out.
The Breakfast Club, released on February 15th, 1985. It was directed by John Hughes. It was written by John Hughes, and it stars Emilio Estevez, Paul Gleason, Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, and Ali Sheedy. 5 high school students meet and discover how they have a lot more in common than they thought.
How'd this movie do, Don?
This movie was made for $1 million, and it brought in $52 million. So
Respectable in 1985.
Oh, absolutely. And John Hughes this was kind of, I don't know if it was in the middle of his rise or maybe sort of the beginning of it. You have 16 Candles, Weird Science, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He wrote
Planes, Trains, Automobiles.
He wrote
She's
Home
Having
Alone.
a Baby, Uncle Buck.
Yeah, and they go on and on and on. John Hughes was a staple of the 1980s and very much a storyteller for the time.
And he made Shermer, Illinois famous. That doesn't even exist.
It doesn't even exist. Yeah.
You know where he got Shermer from?
I feel like I do, but I can't recall.
It is the street he grew up on.
Oh, maybe I didn't know that.
I think it was Shermer Boulevard, I believe he grew up on.
Yeah.
So this was Shermer High School, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
And this is 1985.
Yep.
And
Well, it takes place in 1984.
yes, and then the following year, who is in Shermer High School?
That would be Ferris.
So Vernon is the vice principal. So
and Rooney is the principal.
Yeah.
There you go. The John Hughes universe. On Saturday, March 24th, 1984, 5 students at the fictional Shermer High School report at 7 a.m. for an all-day detention. Each come from a different clique. Claire Standish, snobbish and extremely popular. Brian Johnson, a brainiac. Andrew Clark, a jock on the wrestling team. John Bender, a rebellious teen. And Allison Reynolds, an introverted outcast. They gather in the school library where the vice principal, Richard Vernon, instructs them not to talk, move from their seats, or sleep until they are released at 4 p.m. He also assigns them a 1,000-word essay in which each must describe who you think you are. He leaves, returning only occasionally to check on them. So immediately from the start, I think the Simple Minds tune, which has become, as soon as you hear the song, you think The Breakfast Club.
How can you not?
Right. And I think when that song comes on, it immediately grabs you. And then we're given a quote by David Bowie, and then we're introduced to our characters.
A great piece of trivia about that Simple Minds song. You know the part where they get to where it goes la, 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 la. That was actually in there as filler because the lead singer didn't like the song. He didn't even want to do the song, so he put that in there figuring he'd come back later and add words. And I guess everybody else just loved it, so they left it in.
I think I heard that.
What were the words again?
La, 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 la.
Man,
No,
just
that's not how it goes.
Spot on. It's like
No, I heard
if I close
something-
my eyes, I hear the song.
No, I heard something about the artist not wanting to do that
We do not
song.
want to lose listeners having them hear me sing.
Well, I don't know. I think they'd laugh. I don't know. I could be wrong.
How does it go, Don?
I don't know. I'm not the singer of the bunch.
Oh,
I think
do you
that's the
mean hey,
professor.
Hey, hey, and not la la la.
No.
No, it's
No.
the laws.
La, 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 la. I don't know how to
Yeah, that's totally the
Wow,
song.
there it was all over again. It took me back to the Breakfast
Oh
Club.
my god.
Now,
There we go. There we
back to
sit.
the beginning of this movie, though. This movie, within 2 minutes, does something that a lot of movies take like 20, 30 minutes to do. They introduce us to all of the characters, exactly who they are. We know who they are, including Vernon. all within that first 2 minutes, either, just by the dress, by having the way the parents address them when they're dropping them off, and, the way that even just they go and they sit down in their general areas.
I think the other thing I really liked about the beginning of this movie is after the song ends and everyone's sitting down and Vernon's coming in, it's silent. Did you guys notice that? And I love it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're in detention. It's heavy.
So
Well, everybody's feeling awkward.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, though, but like you can get the point without them even saying a word. You know who the brain is. You know who the jock is. You know who the misfits are.
Yeah.
And just immediately, they don't even have to say a word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you see the license plate number for Brian's car?
What was it?
It was
EMC squared.
Oh, you're joking.
EMC2.
Yeah.
Do you know whose BMW that was that pulled up?
John
Yeah.
Hughes.
Yeah, that was John Hughes' actual car.
Yeah, so having each one of these characters come in the way that they do, we also get a glimpse into their personal lives with their parents. We start out with Brian, and it's Brian first, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Brian and his...
Oh, no, it's Princess first. I'm sorry. It's Claire first.
You're right, it is.
Claire then Brian.
And so Dad is doting, but she's completely wanting nothing to do with him, rolling her eyes twice. And then when Brian comes in, his mother is scolding him for not, finding how he's going to be able to study, just figure out a way. And then we have the dad scolding Andy about his, messing up his scholarship. And then we have Bender walking, and he's the only one that doesn't get dropped off, right?
That says a lot.
We see he is by himself. And then lastly, we have Allison coming in a Cadillac.
Yeah.
And
Both parents.
And wanting nothing to do with her.
Right. She gets out and she's looking for, the acknowledgement or looking for them to say bye, have a nice day, whatever, show that they give a shit. And they don't. They take off and she's just kind of left there.
Well,
so immediately here are our characters.
Yeah, the first thing that we're seeing and what they bring up later is they all have those similar disconnects with their parents. Claire's upset with her dad because he just gives her everything. He just is, using her, basically trying to, pay her off to get, a little happiness out of her. Brian, I thought this was interesting too in a filming technique style. And I've heard this, that when John Hughes is old school in his filming techniques, he always puts characters on the left who are the weaker characters and the dominant characters on the right. So you notice that all the students, when they're being dropped off, are sitting on the left side, and the more dominant characters are on the right side. So even in Brian's car, where his sister is sitting in the middle, she even tells him off, yeah, you better, kind of thing, where she's kind of even dominating because she's sitting to the right of him. So I thought that was kind of interesting that we're seeing these disconnects early on in the movie. They bring it up later that they all don't get along with their parents. They all have issues and similar issues.
Yeah, and this technique and the way that John Hughes is doing this is part of that introducing us to our characters. Everything we need to know in like the first 2 minutes, like you were saying. Yeah. So it's all these little things that he's using to move us along with our characters.
Another unwritten thing that's happening here is each one of these students, they're putting, if you will, their armor on for the day. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
They got to put themselves together, and they got to buck up, and they're going to go and they're going to spend the day with people that they don't know, and they don't want to be here, and they want nothing to do with any of this.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And you can all see, in each way, each one is a little bit beat down, a little one issues. Even Bender, who shows up alone, he has no support because he has an abusive home life. So he shows up by himself, walks in front of the car that almost hits him, and he barely flinches, like he just doesn't care.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he figured they'd stop. And if you're Bender, I guess I'd have to ask myself, why even show up?
Yeah. Well, there is a good reason for that, and I'll bring that up a little bit later.
That he didn't want to be home.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
It's exactly Katie's point.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, he doesn't want to be home.
School for him at this point is the safe place.
Yeah.
He can get away from his abusive home.
I see
and there's a
what you're
theory out there that one of the reasons later on, when he's getting all those extra detentions and he's arguing with Vernon, he wants those extra detentions.
And he's the only one that looks comfortable being there, right? He comes in, Brian's sitting in the chair. No, get out of the chair. And then he instantly swings both chairs sideways.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. He's already used to being here.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
It's a safe place.
Yeah. Yeah. So they all congregate in the library, And now we are introduced to Vernon.
wait.
Paul Gleason, who plays a wonderful bad guy. Or just kind of that guy you don't like.
He plays a dick.
He
Yeah,
is
I know
a
he's
dick.
awful.
Yes, he does.
Wait, I have a quick question back to the characters. I meant to ask this. Is Bender's gray strip of hair intentional?
I have never heard anything about that one way or the
Because
other.
I did think it was peculiar. It was a pretty big strand right in the front. And he's in high school.
Hey, I got a better question. Who cares?
I do. It's like, I'm cute.
I was gonna
Sorry.
say, I have a better thing. Is she's gonna flick that pen? It's gonna drive you crazy.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, quit flicking the pen.
Sorry.
And
No, it's okay.
you know,
We all do. I'm usually the one doing it.
I don't think I've ever noticed a gray strip in his hair, and I've seen the movie 1,000 times.
What?
It's
Yeah.
a big fat strip right in the front.
What?
I am blind though, so
I
to
did.
credit.
I did notice kids that did have like a little bit of white in their hair that they were just born with. So I think he actually has that in his hair.
And I'm gonna go ahead and
okay.
pretend that this last 2 minutes didn't exist.
But you bring
Sorry.
up a good point. If in actually in his wardrobe, in that you notice, all of them were wearing kind of normal outfits. He was wearing that trench coat with the glasses. He seems like he's the most shielded character. That
that's an interesting.
that's like, as you brought up armor and all that. He's the one who's got the most to keep down,
Sure.
to keep hidden.
He showed up wearing that same outfit for his audition. And while he was waiting for the audition, he was being cantankerous and unruly. And the receptionist ends up calling security to escort him out. And security is coming off of the elevator, walking towards him when he gets called into the audition.
Yeah.
So he got saved at the last moment.
I have heard he is a method actor, and that when he takes a role, he stays in that character 24 hours. So much so that during the filming of this, he was a bully to everybody, especially Molly Ringwald on set, to the point where John Hughes said after this movie was made, he would never work with him again. Molly Ringwald tried to get him fired at a couple points during the filming of this, but she says as soon as the filming was done, he changed, he became the nice, friendly guy, and she realized he was just method acting, and he became a good friend of hers.
Yeah, well, it fucking worked, and
Yeah.
it shows.
Yeah.
So you have Judd Nelson, Emilio Estevez, Molly Ringwald, Ali Sheedy, and Anthony Michael Hall. This is around the time where the Brat Pack was introduced to the world. What'd you think of Emilio Estevez as the jock?
Emilio Estevez, I thought, played a confident, cocky kid that he's a pretty boy. His hair was perfectly coiffed, and he definitely came across as a stereotypical jock that I would encounter at high school.
Absolutely,
he looked like
100%.
he was wearing makeup. Like his face was so perfect.
Yeah.
An interesting point is that he came in and auditioned for the part of Bender. He wanted to, because he's coming off of many roles where he played the criminal type character. If you looked at like his role in Outsiders, he always played the nasty type gang member or criminal, and so this is the first time he had played like a jock type role, and I thought he did fantastic. They all kind of came in for different roles. Originally, Molly Ringwald was supposed to be Ali Sheedy's character, but she really wanted to be Claire. So it's just kind of interesting how they all kind of, and in the past, if you look at Molly Ringwald's roles before that, she was always the outside character. Look at her in Pretty in Pink. She was the outside kind of nerd. Anthony Michael Hall had kind of played some nerd roles, but all, like in 16 Candles, he was kind of popular in that one. So it's kind of interesting how they all had different roles, and John Hughes put them into specifically roles that they had not played.
Anthony Michael Hall always played the nerd.
Not in 16 Candles. Remember, he was kind of popular.
When was the last time you've seen 16 Candles?
no.
He wasn't like everybody.
No.
He was
He had a following. Those
He
two
was
guys that
the-
followed him around everywhere.
affectionately king of the geeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
I mean, he's always a nerd.
Yeah.
What do you mean, We just proved it.
At the end of Weird Science, he's not necessarily, but
No, he's still a nerd.
No,
Yeah.
but he's just more of a popular nerd.
I just don't
now.
agree with you that he was, directly in. He might have been more geeky, but
What's the difference?
he wasn't a nerd. If you were ever a nerd, you'd know.
I was just gonna say
Well,
this is like
that
speaking
goes
from
to show you.
trauma or something.
Yeah, no, Anthony Michael Hall, unfortunately, until Johnny Be Good, plays the same character
Okay.
all the time.
what did you think of Andy?
Estevez?
Yeah.
I think he's a fine actor. Back then, he was in, like you said, The Outsiders, which is one of my favorite movies. Red Dawn.
I guess-
he's not in Red Dawn.
I guess more to the point of what did you think of Andy, not Emilio?
Oh, as the jock?
Yeah.
He was a typical high school jock.
Did you have that kind of guy when you were in high school?
We had thousands of those guys. So, yeah, absolutely.
I'd ask Katie, but
I went to all girls high school.
Yeah, so did you have the jock type at the
Female?
all-girls school?
Not well. You could tell who played sports.
So, yes.
So yes. Although I was just gonna say, I feel like they could have gotten someone better to play the jock. I don't think he was the.
So who
Best
you didn't like Emilio Estevez?
He was
in this?
okay. I just thought they could have gotten someone better.
Like who?
I don't know. I need to think about it. I don't have. someone on the
I'm
top
shocked
of my-
if you would know any of the actors from that time. I mean, it's easy to recast it now,
What
right?
about
But
the
if
guy Rob Lowe
interesting, he's kind of a pretty boy.
or the best friend from Ferris Bueller? He's kind of pretty and he's
Alan
tall.
Ruck?
He's too timid.
I could see Charlie Sheen taking it.
Yeah, maybe
Oh,
maybe. Isn't he older though? I think he comes across as older, like in
Well, I
Ferris.
think he's the older brother of Emilio.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think he is
Anyway.
older.
He is.
Now, I do want to ask a question. Since you went to an all-girls high school, did you see similar cliques as there were
Oh,
in this
totally.
movie?
We had every clique in the book. We had a Satanist clique. We had
Satanist
every clique under the sun and
Wow.
under that dome. And it was very distinct. Like you knew who was friends with who. And it was, by the way, everyone dressed. It was very, like you could tell.
Okay, so let me ask you this real quick. When was the first time you seen this movie?
Probably like, it was it's, I'm nervous. One of the quotes from this movie I used as my 8th grade quote in the 8th grade yearbook. So I probably saw it in 7th grade.
Okay,
So I was
that's
pretty young.
That's fine. I
Yeah.
mean, I
Your
don't
parent
care.
would let you watch a rated R movie?
Oh, totally.
I need to talk to your parent.
Yeah, no shit. What the
Why
fuck just happened?
Would that be okay?
That is crazy talk. Crazy talk. So since the 7th grade, how many times do you think you've seen it?
3.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't watch it that much. I was really excited to watch it. And I watch movies and shows that I've seen. I don't like watching new stuff.
Okay, so wait, let me get this straight. Just so I understand. You've seen this movie 3 times, and this is probably your 3rd favorite film of all time?
I don't like to watch the top 3 over and over again.
I'm not asking that. I'm just saying that's correct,
Yeah,
right?
probably
me
3 or
jump-
4 times.
That's impressive.
I got to
there,
throw
but-
out, though, Breakfast Club's one of those movies that you see it and you think about it and you talk about it, and maybe you don't run out and see it right away again, or you kind of wait to see it again, but you appreciate it. And the next time you see it, you appreciate it just as much as the first time you saw it. So I don't think you have to see it multiple times or see it all the time for it to be like a favorite movie, but it's just such a well movie that sticks with you that it can still be your favorite movie, even if you've only seen it a couple times, because the next time you see it, you're going to love it as just as much.
I feel like you should give me your rating right there.
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah. I
You
think you
love-
should give me your rating, and we'll cut that,
I
and
just-
then we'll get there, because...
He loves on this podcast to say, I don't want to need to see that again, but I give it a 5. Like, what does that mean? Oh my god.
Oh,
I know where
thank
I
you,
stand
Katie.
now.
Like, what
Thank
does-
you, thank
that's why the
you.
numbers are a little
Wow.
bit confusing.
That's hilarious.
I got to admit, that stung a little.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
I'm
true.
just confused by the rating
She-
system.
I'm not saying she's wrong, but yeah, Don, you've just made his day.
Oh my gosh. You should see the smile on my face, listeners.
Can I just say happy birthday, Don?
Oh, there you go. Oh, that
Oh, yeah,
completely
yeah,
made
yeah.
my day. Thank you.
Yeah.
John Bender ignores Vernon's rules and riles up the other students. He spends most of his time bullying and harassing Claire, Brian, and Andrew. They all eventually feel sorry for him after seeing how he deals with abusive adults like Vernon, who gives John 8 additional weekends worth of detentions and eventually locks him in a storage closet, which Bender escapes and returns to the library. The students then pass the time by talking, arguing, at one point, smoking the marijuana. Gradually, they open up and reveal their secrets. Claire has many experiences of peer pressure due to her popularity. John comes from an abusive household. Allison is a compulsive liar who dreams of running away from home. Andrew cannot think for himself due to his controlling father. And Brian contemplates suicide over a failing grade. They discover that they all have poor relationships with their parents. Claire's parents use her to get back at each other during arguments. John's parents physically and verbally abuse him. Allison's parents are neglectful. Andrew's father pushes him to the limit to succeed, especially in wrestling. And Brian's parents pressure him to earn the highest grades possible. They all realize that, despite their differences, they face similar problems.
An interesting part about Bender, and I was watching some reviews and doing some research on this, and I have to agree with the idea that for Bender, again, we talked about this earlier, the school and the detentions are his way to escape. It's his safe place. And his confrontations with Vernon are stealing his safe place, especially when he goes to that closet and Vernon goes to fake hit him. You can see the shock and, just remorse or not shock, but the scared look in Bender's face, in that he's just realized that he's not safe at home and now he's no longer safe at school. And so they have stolen his safe place. And that almost changes that character right there. It kind of transitions into, he needs to find some support at that point.
Yeah, you can tell that he's already lived through that type of agony, that type of horror someplace else, most likely at home. The look of fear in his eyes as Vernon is laying into him verbally.
Yeah, and Vernon is your typical alpha male, king shit of the playground type of teacher, right? And he's not going to be made to look bad or look foolish in front of the other kids. And Bender has no problem with it. One of my favorite parts of this film is when he's handing out the detentions. I laugh every single time I watch that scene.
You want another?
Yes.
Are you through?
No. And he just keeps going and going. And I like the moment where he looks at Claire and Claire says, knock it off. Right. But that fuels him. Now he wants to show off in front of her and he does it. And then the bit about, he goes, well, I don't know. How many is that? And then Brian pops in.
Brian.
That's 8. That's 8 counting the one where you asked.
It was 7, including the one from this morning for the Barry Manilow rating as well.
Now it's 8. No, sir, it's 7. Shut up, Pee-wee.
His little tidbits in this film are my favorite thing. There's that other one where he's talking to the character, Bender's talking to the characters, and he's like, "What clubs are you guys in?" And then you hear Brian, the physics club,
the math club,
and then it's like no one's listening to him, but he's still talking.
I'm sorry. What were you saying? Well, I was saying I was in the physics club. And what do you do in the physics club? We talk about physics.
I'm like, yeah, what did you expect the answer
Yeah.
was gonna
So you, what is it?
Kind of social in a sad, demented kind of way,
but still social. Yeah. So many memorable quotes from this film.
Where John Hughes got his inspiration for Vernon from?
A teacher in high school?
Yes. His wrestling coach in high school who failed him in gym.
I can see that.
What a dick.
Yeah, I got the impression, and Carl the janitor brings it up kind of later, is that Vernon, first of all, thought going into this position that it would be a position of respect, that the kids would show him respect and be in awe of him, as well as he did it to have the summers off. And when he learned he actually had to work and put in effort, he became very bitter about it.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
And takes that out on the kids.
Oh, yeah.
One other last point about the high school coach. So John Hughes runs into the coach later on in life, and and you see, that was a good movie. Except that teacher, he was a real jerk.
That must have been the best moment of John Hughes' life.
It must have been very satisfying.
That must have been totally awesome. One more thing I wanted to say about the teacher is, did anyone notice his sexy calendar?
Oh gosh, yeah. What is that mechanic?
That was hilarious.
The mechanics. It was like a rigid calendar.
No, I
missed
it.
It was like a big. I knew no one saw it.
I saw it.
No, there was like a blonde lady in a bikini or something on a beach, and it was just really funny.
Are you familiar with the style of? Yeah. It's up there on. What is it doing on
in a school
wall?
I know.
Need I remind you, people?
Different time.
It was 1984.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
one of those things that probably doesn't hold up today if this movie gets remade.
Speaking of
there's a
Carl,
lot of things that wouldn't hold up.
Yeah, true that. But the heart and the core,
Yeah.
I would hope to stay the same. Go on.
So having the 7 or the 8 detentions, however you want to stack it up, as soon as he leaves, that really is a satisfying fuck you he gives when the door slams.
Oh, I love that when the
sound
music
effects.
builds
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Bender had some of the best lines, I feel like, in the whole movie. Like when Vernon's trying to prop the door open, and I think creating a fire hazard would be dangerous at this point in your career.
Dick.
And Dick, and just show Dick some respect.
Yeah.
But, and I guess a lot of his lines, a lot of things he said, including, was it Neo Maxi Zoom Dweeby?
Mm-hmm.
Those lines were all ad-libbed by Judd.
Yeah.
When he spits the loogie up in the air, it was originally done during they were doing a read through, and John Hughes watches Judd Nelson do that. He's like, "Can you do that again?" All day long.
Yeah. How many of you have tried it?
And so after he did it again, when he did it for the production, Molly Ringwald, she hadn't seen it before, and the disgust on her face is what made Hughes keep it in the film.
Yeah. And you can tell she is utterly disgusted by that.
It is disgusting.
Yeah. Have you ever tried it?
I have not, because I know exactly how the outcome would go.
What about you?
No, never.
Oh,
have.
and then spit would land on your face.
Oh, yeah.
What about you? Have you
I've
tried
never
it?
tried it.
Oh, well.
Well,
Have you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
It's not as hard as it looks.
We got what time? Let's try it now. I will bring up the fact of when Allison's character is doing the drawing and then it starts snowing. That apparently was Parmesan cheese.
Yes, I read
Oh, not
that.
her dandruff.
That
It
was
is
not her dad.
not
The
her
other
dandruff.
people, the other actors and actresses, they thought that it was actually her dandruff, but no, it was Parmesan cheese. And the joke that Bender was telling when he was crawling through the thing, he ad-libbed that. He made it up because they couldn't come up with a joke. It was supposed to end with the punchline being a pencil, but he couldn't think of a joke, so they just, there is no actual punchline to that joke.
So we're introduced to our characters. What'd you guys think of the lunch scene? I thought lunch was hilarious. First of all, he comes in and they're all asleep, right? And what did he say? He said, "Don't fall asleep." And then he says, "Wake up." And, nobody moves.
Somebody need to use the restroom.
And then all their hands go up. Yeah, it's a classic scene. But the lunches. So you have Claire with the sushi.
That was her idea, actually, Molly Ringwald's idea. They were trying to come up with a way to portray that she was kind of this
I thought it was
outsider.
early
and a snob.
Sheedy's.
Was it? I'd heard it was one of their ideas, and that at that time sushi wasn't as popular as it was, so it was kind of seen as a rich person's thing.
I
So-
laughed so hard when Bender, when she was like, "Can I eat now?" And he goes, "I don't know. You can try."
Yeah.
Or something. I laughed so hard. Although I was thinking about how that raw fish must have been sitting in her bag for at least 4 hours.
Yeah, that's what I was
I
thinking
was like,
too.
you cannot be eating that.
That's
Maybe
funny.
she had a cooler.
Yeah, she'll
That we
put
just didn't
she'll
see.
put that in her mouth.
Yeah.
The little board was so extra too. I'm like, you do not need that little wooden plank to eat that.
It was hilarious. And then you have Emilio Estevez's
A
gargantuan
gallon of milk too.
gargantuan lunch, right?
3 sandwiches,
Right. Brian
A whole
has
bag of
soup.
cookies, the milk,
Yep.
Allison's
Oh,
sandwich.
Allison's.
banana.
That was her idea to put
The
Captain
apple.
Crunch into that because she wanted the crunch on the microphone.
Yeah.
And she actually did put pixie sticks on the sandwich and ate it just like that.
Oh, I have no doubt in my
So
mind that she did.
gross.
Yeah.
So,
when Allison and Andy are walking to get the sodas, we finally hear Allison talk. Not yell out, but talk. It's 33 minutes into the movie, and she says her first line of dialogue.
yeah.
But did you notice too, the first time she even made that ha sound earlier on,
Claire
that
says, "Shut up."
Yeah, they turn around, they tell her to shut up, and she hasn't spoken the whole movie.
Yeah, and completely in character, and you buy it, and she's the basket case, right? So her and Emilio are walking down to get the soft drinks, and they start talking about what's your poison, and she says vodka, and what does he say? When do you drink vodka? And she's like, whenever. So this just kind of goes in playing into her character of being this compulsive liar that we will find out later that she is.
This was the only scene, I think, that I felt the dialogue wasn't that great. When she asked him why you're here, and he gives that spiel that she basically says at the end of it, "Why don't you tell me why you're really here now?" That one just felt so forced, so fake, and so like he was reading the dialogue at that point. So that was the only one I thought, and I understand because she even called him out on it, and that's kind of the whole reason for it. But that just dialogue didn't work for me in that part.
Oh,
You like that?
I thought it was fine. The way he delivered it was he was being elusive. He didn't want to open up to her. He was just beating around the bush. You know, I didn't feel like he was reading it. I don't feel like any of these characters were ever just reading any lines. I think that they put a lot into it. And this scene, it's a kind of a throwaway scene, right? It's just to get us out of the library and break up the scene changed a little bit. I thought the dialogue was fine.
Well, I just feel like, I've known a lot of jocks, and I feel like none of them would ever sit there and say, well, I'm more powerful than most people, and so I'm expected to a higher degree, and they wouldn't say it like that.
Well, apparently John Hughes thought they did, and last time I checked...
I know, the script was written that way.
Yeah, so... I'm sorry you had a problem with it. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
So we're back in the library, and we have the other three sitting around talking, and we have Bender that's gradually tearing up, destroying that book as he small talks with them.
Yeah.
And what I really enjoyed about that, what followed immediately afterwards, when he grabs a card catalog drawer, and he grabs a big old stack of cards, and I'm thinking that there are librarians that are watching the movie for the first time, and their brains must be melting watching him just grabbing these random cards and just shoving them back into random places inside the drawers chronology of cards.
Yeah, so he's sitting there craving attention, and he's ripping the book, and I love, what does he say? He says, oh yeah, and more yay really pumps my nag. And then Claire corrects him.
I love that moment when she corrects him.
And do you hear the little French musical score behind it when she says it? Yeah. So
I think that's the first moment he thought, I might want to kiss this girl.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And Brian even I love his work.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then is it right after this where Brian alludes that he had sex?
Oh,
with
I
Claire?
love that.
Yeah.
I think it's right after that. First, we are confronted with Claire that she's gonna be a fat person.
Yeah.
I think
Because she has a fat person's name.
yeah.
Well, there are two kinds of people.
Bender always pushing the envelope.
Bender
Always.
is so funny, though.
Yeah, you get the impression right away from him is that when people start understanding him or getting close to him, he's got to just tear them down to push them away.
Yeah.
So every time he starts being nice and kind of warming up to people, he's got to say something nasty like that.
Yeah, because he doesn't really... What he really craves is affection and belonging, but he's scared because he's never had it. And the people that he's supposed to get it from don't give it to him. And so he doesn't know what healthy looks like.
Yeah.
So he's very much a damaged individual.
Kind of to go back a point, I thought it was interesting. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you both know this. All three of you know this, that the library scene was actually filmed in a gym. They rebuilt that whole library inside of a gym in the high school. It was a closed high school that they filmed this in. And I guess the Chicago Public Library donated over 10,000 books for the filming of this.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I thought that was just really convenient that they were able to do that and to build it. And I thought it looked like a library. In fact, I thought it was one of the most impressive high school libraries I've ever seen.
That's what I thought as soon as I watched it. I'm like, wow, what fucking school has this kind of fucking library?
Yeah.
And that big sculpture in the middle.
Yeah.
Blue neon light going around.
Yeah, it looked like it looked more like Western's library, which is very impressive. Not a high school library.
And it has an audio room?
So we get to see Andy's lunch. What do we have here? Is this milk? Soup. And then,
That's Brian.
And
Brian's lunch, yeah.
And then that big old smack of the hand. I love that big old smack of his hand.
That was funny.
And this goes into Bender's impersonation of a life at Brian's house, which then turns into an impression of life at his house. And, Andrew doesn't believe him at first, and then we get the cigar burn on him, and then we get to that classic memorable line, right? Go get me a turkey pot pie, bitch. But Dad, what about you?
Fuck you.
No, Dad, what about you?
Fuck you.
No, Dad, what about you?
Fuck you.
There you go.
My mom's
classic.
gonna hate that.
Oh, and I'm leaving it in too. Sorry, Mom.
It's during this time that I was noticing that probably 90% of the time that the camera pans, it is panning to Bender. And we have a few shots with Andy, but it's about, who is dominating the scene. And almost always it's Bender that dominates the scenes. And the camera only seems to move, like I said, probably 90% of the time for him. It never moves for the girls.
This is off topic, but did it? Carl, the janitor. What was the relationship between him and Brian? I couldn't get that.
Brian probably just knows him.
There was an edited scene that actually showed a little bit more of their relationship. Carl the janitor is the one that found the flare gun that went off in his locker and had to deal with it, and he actually confronted Brian. So that's how Brian and Carl the janitor. I was actually going to bring up, is this the section where we get Carl the janitor's first introduction, where he comes in and they ask him, how does someone become a janitor? I thought that was just the interaction, just showing him talking about it. Carl talking about it was just a great way to show him a little respect, even if he's got this lowly position. He's a guy who deserves just as much respect as all of them.
Yeah, and see, I didn't need that deleted scene to tell me that Brian is the type of student that would know a janitor's name. I mean, I
they're
completely
friendly.
bought that. Yeah, they're friendly, see each other in the hall, right? And that's why he's kind of embarrassed about it too, right? Because he doesn't want to look like a schmutz in front of all these kids. Do you notice Carl's picture on the plaque in the opening?
Yep.
No.
Yes, he is at the beginning of the beginning montage, looking at all the stills around. There is a close-up of Man of the Year, and he is front and center.
Carl
the
That's
janitor.
Now-
with a bunch of hair.
There's of course a lot of deleted scenes in this movie. I guess the Criterion Collection collects them all, as well as YouTube. You can find them. There is one scene out there where Carl the janitor actually predicts, like he goes off on the kids and he predicts where they will all be in 5 years. He predicts that Bender will have killed himself, Claire will have 2 boob jobs and a facelift, Brian will become very successful but die of a heart attack due to the stress of his high-paying job, Allison will become a great poet, but nobody will care, and then she will just marry and have a bunch of kids. And Andrew will marry a gorgeous airline stewardess, but because his athletic career never worked out, will be working at a used car dealership, and his wife will become fat. It's just a depressing outtake, so I'm kind of glad they cut a lot of these deleted scenes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess at the time it makes sense, and Carl has his opinions, but I agree with you that these are scenes that we don't need. And what I really was surprised about this movie, having watched it recently, is only an hour and a half.
It's so short,
and it's paced very well.
Yeah.
It's paced like a school day. After lunch, we get the whole bit where when Bender gets escorted out and taken to where he's locked in, the closet. So that's kind of like the midday portion of the day. And so it moves very much like a school day. So I remember thinking, wow, I didn't think it was an hour and a half. So that was crazy.
We got to talk about one of my favorite lines in this movie. Before Bender gets escorted to the closet that he gets put into, Vernon asks him, what would he do if his pot was on fire? And I love the comment of, that's impossible. It's in Johnson's shorts.
I was really hoping he was going to make a joke about smoking it.
Yeah. And
Right?
the look on Anthony Michael Hall's face. He's like, holy shit, did he just really say that?
Yeah.
And so they take off and they go running around the fucking school, and you have a Wang Chung song going on, and it's shot really well. How Vernon doesn't see them, I'll never know. But whatever, I'm going along for the ride, and it's fun. They get, and this is a moment too when they run into where it's locked off, and Bender's like, shit, and Andrew's like, good job, and Claire sticks up for Bender at this moment.
Because Bender told him not to go that way.
Right, he said he wanted to go the other way, and they didn't want to listen.
They stuck up for him first thing out of the gate. What was up with that? Why they all chose to stick up for Bender and not turn him in for the screw incident?
Because they're showing their solidarity against the authority.
They all have
and Vernon is probably considered to be the greater evil. But yeah, so
Nobody wants to be the snitch. Plus,
Yeah.
the way this movie is set up is it's actually set up to be like almost like a prison drama. They are in a prison work camp in that here is the Gestapo, who is Vernon, and the rest of them are all doing hard time. You know, they're even given a job, a project that they're supposed to do. You'll notice when they're running around the hallways, what do they come up to that stops them but almost like prison bars? So it's just another way of showing that they're in prison for this Saturday.
trivia. How many bags does Bender have to discard before he gets to his weed?
I thought it was like 3 or 4.
3.
3.
It is 3 bags.
3 bags. I like the
Figured
little
it was to cover up the smell.
I like the little guillotine that comes down, especially after Carl had just given his diatribe that I go through your lockers.
Yeah, and then you see Bender's face light up, like, oh shit.
The other locker we see at the beginning with all the shit laying on the floor.
Oh yeah, what was that all about?
That was Brian's locker where the flare went off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
interesting.
So he gets locked up, and then he escapes, and they all reconvene in the library, and Bender wants his weed, and so he goes in the back, and Andrew's really reluctant. He doesn't want to do it at
actually-
first.
Before that, real quick, the scene where he falls through the ceiling and hides under the desk and Vernon comes in, Molly Ringwald was 16 at that time. So when he put his head between her legs...
How old was he?
23.
He's 23. That was not her. That was actually a stunt double because her mom was not having that. There was anything that was sexual in that movie, she had a stunt double for.
Even the kiss?
The kiss, I think she might have actually done.
Yeah, when he put his head.
But
I was mortified.
any like touching or anything like that her mom would not let her do.
Judd Nelson had to read many of his lines to Claire's double because Claire was, as you said, 16 and she was spending time in school. So they had to edit around that.
Interesting.
Yeah, only her and I think Michael Anthony Hall were high school age when this film was made.
So now that you've interrupted my flow for that awesome tidbit, where were we?
Don't you feel better?
Does it look like I feel better?
Well,
Oh, you were talking about them smoking the marijuana.
But-
Oh, that's right. Okay. So,
but you jump past the basketball scene.
Yeah, you're
I want to
jumping
be
way
an
ahead.
airborne ranger.
Oh, did anyone else think whose shoe was that he left?
it was probably just one of those random shoes that you see in a gym. Absolutely,
Oh,
for
I
sure.
see
How
so
many
many
times
of those.
you've never seen a random shoe? There were random shoes in our gym
No,
all the
what?
time. Yes,
Who
all
leaves
the
a shoe in
time.
there? It's
All
like
the
that
time.
one time I left one of my
We come
shoes
from a
at-
different era.
at
Yeah,
Winter Ball.
clearly.
And
Yeah.
they sent out a whole email to my whole school, and they're like, "Who's this Cinderella who left her high heel at the shoe?" And it was me. I remember reading it. I'm like, "Who left their shoe?" And I'm like,
Oh my god! And this is going to come in later when we tell each other which characters we were. So yeah, they get roadblocked, and then Bender says, "I'm gonna take one for the team," and he runs off and starts singing his Airborne Ranger song, and he gets caught in the gym, and the others get away, and then so Vernon finds him in the gym.
"Did anyone else think?" I need to stop asking. Did anyone else think this? How tall he was because he was able to dunk.
Or it was a shorter hoop.
Oh, you're really putting him down there, aren't you?
Well, I don't know, how tall is Judd
I
Nelson?
thought it emphasized how tall he was, but maybe
You
it
know,
was
and
a shorter hoop.
the movies tell me that white men can't jump. So,
Do you feel good about yourself?
huh?
Just tearing her down like that? Just feel good about yourself?
No,
I don't feel
I call it common sense. So, I
know
mean,
the word.
I don't know what you call it. I don't know. What you call
Anyway,
it.
so now that we've actually gotten up to the marijuana scene, would you like to talk about what you were going to say?
No, because I forgot. You guys cut me off on my flow.
He is, just had a birthday, so he's getting a little older. Mine starts going a little.
Yeah.
He's getting all older.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Oh,
You're cool. And fuck you too. Okay, so. Hey, speaking of pot, this is where they start smoking, and Andrew doesn't want to smoke pot at first, right? But Molly Ringwald's the first one up and out, and I feel like Brian's never done it, and he's really curious about it. That's why he
Yeah.
keeps looking, and then he goes, and they all kind of join. But did you notice that Ali Sheedy never smokes pot? She's the
I
only
was gonna ask if she did or not.
Yeah, she's the only one in there that I can see.
I noticed that too.
that doesn't partake.
The interesting thing I read about this scene is that John Hughes had them all ad-lib their stories. When they all sit around, they tell their tragic tales of why they're there. They all made them up from their own life experiences.
Yeah.
Which I
Pretty
thought
good.
was one of the best scenes of the movie.
Yeah.
Chaos, anarchy for an editor.
Yeah.
The editor for this movie was Dee Dee Allen, and she was on set a lot, constantly, almost daily, talking to John Hughes about what was going on, how was it progressing, where was the story going, how were these characters to be interacting with each other, because it can be chaos if you have too much going on that's ad-lib, because if it doesn't match the script, then it's going to be impossible to edit. But John Hughes, he was born under a lucky star because he got a hugely seasoned editor, and Dee Dee Allen. She did Reds. She did, what else did she do? She Dog Day Afternoon, Bonnie and Clyde,
I couldn't find my paper.
Yeah, gotta be a little careful.
The Hustler. So he was born under a lucky star to be assigned Dee Dee Allen, since this was only his second movie, but she was on set a lot to help with that style of shooting, because it can be a bear, especially when dialogue is happening off screen. So during that circle, when they're all pressing Claire about is she a virgin or not, and it's that kind of off-screen dialoguing that editors hate. It's bedlam, and so it works for this movie though. But it's definitely a strong point to the movie.
There is a scene that happens around this time that John Hughes has said is pretty much one of the scenes he regrets most putting in a movie. Do you know what that scene is?
Is it the one where Emilio Estevez is?
Yes.
He screams and the glass breaks.
He regrets that scene. He wishes he never put that in the movie.
It doesn't make any sense. Even the way he's acting after smoking weed does not make any sense. Is he smoking crack? Is he smoking meth? He has a lot of fucking energy.
Well, the funny thing, too, is that originally it was only supposed to be Molly Ringwald that dances, and she was too embarrassed to dance alone, so all the other actors decided to dance as well. So that whole scene, too, with him dancing, going through the hallways and all that, that was all him. That was just him ad-libbing it.
Kind of random.
Yeah. I mean, I like that scene. I like the fact that they all kind of bond over music, and they just kind of let themselves go at that moment.
Yeah, it's taking their armor off.
Yeah, exactly. You're taking your armor off.
But again, you can kind of see even from their dance styles who they are and which group they fall into.
Each student then confesses why they are in detention. Andrew taped another student's butt cheeks together using athletic tape because he felt he had not cut loose on anyone in high school like his domineering father had. Brian left a flare gun in his locker, which went off accidentally, destroying a ceramic elephant lamp he had made for shop class. Vernon subsequently found the flare gun. Allison admitted she didn't do anything, yet showed up anyway for the lack of anything better to do. Claire mentions peer pressure to go along with what her friends want to do. At the start of the film, Claire's father stated through dialogue that she is in detention due to skipping class to go shopping. Vernon had earlier stated that John was in detention for pulling a false fire alarm. Claire gives Allison a makeover, which sparks romantic interest from Andrew. Claire decides to break her pristine, innocent appearance by kissing John, although suspecting their new relationship will end when detention is over. They believe their mutual experiences will change the way they look at their peers. As the detention nears its end, the group requests that Brian complete the essay for everyone, and John returns to the storage closet. Brian leaves the essay in the library for Vernon to read after they leave. As the students part way, Allison and Andrew kiss, as do Claire and John. Allison rips Andrew's state championship patch from his jacket to keep. Claire gives John one of her diamond earrings, which he wears. Vernon reads the essay, in which Brian states that Vernon has already judged who they are using stereotypes, and that he is crazy if he thinks that they'll tell them who they are. Brian correspondingly states each one of us is a brain, an athlete, a basket case, a princess, and a criminal. Does that answer your question? He signs off the essay with sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club. John is last seen raising his fist while walking through an empty football field. End movie.
Some of the things that were good. There's good and bad in this scene. I loved, like we said earlier, the scene where all sitting around and they were telling their stories, just the raw emotion in all of their stories, especially Brian's, about how he can't have a failing grade. He just cannot have it. He can't have it. His parents can't have it. It just the raw. I thought they all showed their acting chops here. This was just so well done. Ali Sheedy has actually said that she regrets doing this. The scene where she gets the makeover and then gets with Andy after that, in that she feels like she didn't have to change to get his interest, to get any romantic attention from him. She should have been who she was. Now they have gone back and said the reason it wasn't that she had to change herself to get interest from him. It was more of this is who she really wanted to be when she was not being ignored and left alone. She wanted to have friends. She wanted to be this more brighter colored person. It just that she was so ignored and depressed that she was kind of in this gloomy state. So Claire helped bring out the real her. But Ali Sheedy feels like she changed her to become someone different.
Well, see, I don't think that's it at all. I think that she lets Molly Ringwald do this to her because Molly Ringwald is being nice to her. I think after she goes home, I think she goes right back to being who she was.
Now, I haven't seen it, but there is supposedly a deleted scene out there where Andy actually shows some romantic interest in her before she gets the makeover, and that's one of the things that prompts the makeover. So I kind of wish in this instance they would have left that in.
I think he starts to show romantic feelings right before this scene when they're talking about what's in his wallet, and it's him, Brian, and Allison, and then she dumps all of her shit out all over the table. I think it's there that he starts to think, well, maybe I do want to kiss this girl.
When he gets tried to get her to talk about what's going on with her.
Yeah, I mean when they're all sitting there, yeah.
I felt like too when they did her makeup, all the characters seemed to keep saying, I'm like so far from the microphone. They seemed to keep saying, "Oh, we can see your eyes now." So it wasn't even that she put on makeup. It was just that she wasn't so covered. They could actually look at her for who she really was.
Yeah. So
I love Brian's whole when she's walking by and she looks at him and she goes, "What?" And he goes,
Oh, I love that. Oh, the other thing. Oh, I'll say that later.
And you notice in her expression when he first looks at her, she's horrified. I mean, if Brian doesn't like this, then what's Andrew going to think, right? But as soon as Brian, and we know as the audience, we know Brian is like, wow, right? And as soon as he conveys that on his face, her spirits lift, right? She feels better about it. What I don't understand is how Andrew doesn't see her coming. Is he looking down? Is he looking up? I mean, she's walking right toward him. So
He was focused on the essay.
no, not Brian. Andrew. How Andrew doesn't see her
Oh,
coming.
I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah. So
he's
Yeah.
stoned.
maybe.
I
Maybe.
like what he says a few minutes before that. All the stuff is dumped onto the couch, and Brian he leans over and he starts talking to Andy about how her home life is unsatisfying.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that he had a really good line that he said something to the effect of,
No one's home life is
"Well,
satisfying.
everybody's home life is unsatisfying.
Oh yeah.
If it wasn't, then we'd never leave our parents."
Yeah. Who said that?
Andy.
Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a strong line.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was.
It's kind of relatable, right? He's trying to relate and
Very
just
relatable.
everybody has problems, right?
One of the biggest points in this movie is relating that, they even say it kind of that all the kids out there kind of don't relate to their parents. They all have problems with their parents. They all have unsatisfying home lives. And, Ali Sheedy's character actually even brings up the fact, she doesn't want to get older. She doesn't want to become adult because when you become adult, your heart dies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the interesting thing about it, and I don't think I caught it even the first couple times I saw it, is the scenes that we get to see with Vernon, especially with Carl, is almost like it's the adult view. The children are hesitant about becoming adults. Well, this is the adult view of what's happened to them after they become adults. Basically, he's looking at it as, he hasn't changed, the kids have changed, whereas the kids are worried about becoming adults and changing. So you're getting to see both viewpoints, the adult view version and the kid version, and there's like a borderline between them. So there's more to the movie.
I like that. And I liked how when he was looking at the confidential files, Carl was like, "What's she doing there?" Because I feel like if I was the janitor, I'd be like, "I didn't see that." Because he's in a position of power at that school, and Carl challenges him.
And I love that he says, "Well, what's it going to take to make this go away?"
Oh,
and Carl's like, $50. And he's like, "What?"
Right there, I think Carl has just shown, the vice principal who really has the power at the school. He even said it to the kids. "I know everything. I'm the eyes and the ears of this school."
Institution.
Of this institution. And he's shown that he can take control. He knows everything. He's got the dirt on all of them. So really, he's at the bottom of the food chain. He's actually pretty high up.
He also has a really poignant line when they're sitting there drinking their beers. What keeps me up at night is that someday these kids, they're going to be taking care of me. And then Carl comes back with, "I wouldn't count on it."
Yeah.
Oh, I love that too.
Really strong line.
That's what keeps me up at night, knowing that one day my kids are going to have to take care of me.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I'd be worried. Especially the way you treat them.
I know.
You should start being a little nicer.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
I wouldn't be in my character. So, all right. So Brian wants to kill himself. Andrew duct tapes someone's butt cheeks together
For his old man.
Allison had nothing better to do, which,
I love that.
it kind of parallels with Bender. Bender wants to get out because of abuse. Allison wants to get out because of neglect.
Did you buy her excuse though that she had nothing better to do?
Yeah.
Because Vernon seemed to know ahead of time. First of all, he's the guy who's running the detention. He's the vice principal. He's in charge of discipline. He would know that she didn't belong there. So
But does he care?
From the little research I've done is that she's there because of lying, that she is a constant liar.
You could look at it that way.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what she is. She's a chronic liar.
Yeah, she said that early on.
And a klepto. She stole the switchblade. She stole his padlock.
I love that scene.
Oh, the
The
switchblade scene.
because the camera is so focused on Bender, right? And then you see the hand come in of the right of frame, and she has to use two hands to pull it out. And how does Bender not know it's gone?
So great the way it de-escalates the tension that is there momentarily.
Yeah.
There is a scene, another deleted scene from this movie that I guess is on that Criterion collection, that she actually takes that switchblade later on and jimmies a lock on a teacher's locker. And she pulls out the Prince album that she's actually viewing in one scene later that she's looking at. I think it was a Purple Rain album.
It wasn't Purple Rain, but I always wondered where she got that album because her bag didn't look quite big enough to be storing that. And why would she have an album?
But it's another connection, kind of what I was saying earlier about kind of the connection between the kids and the adults. When she pulls the album out of the locker, she looks at whatever. I think she's with Andy or one of the characters, and she looks at it and she goes, "You know what this means, don't you?" And he's like, "What does it mean?" And she goes, "They're human."
I thought it was funny that Claire the whole time was talking about how her parents ignored her or whatever, and then you were mentioning when she gets dropped off, she's like rolling her eyes like, "Ugh, is he still talking to me?" It's like, doesn't she want his attention?
Yeah, maybe.
I was just confused by her because she's like, "Well, if I didn't feel sorry for myself, who would?" That line, and I was like, her parents seem to be like all over her.
I got the impression from when she rolled her eyes in the beginning, it was that the father had just said he'll make it up to her. And it's like she's buying her love, and she's tired of him showing this disgenuine love to her.
Right. I love what Bender says. You want to get back at your parents.
Oh, I love that.
I am a perfectly good candidate to help with that. Mm-hmm. So I think that goes on for a couple months or 2 months, and then
I want to
fizzles
know
out.
when Bender put the earring in his ear, like Did he just have a hole in his ear waiting for an earring?
I think he takes one out and then
I
puts
never
it.
saw
he
him-
takes one out.
I never
He
saw
takes
him
one
take
out.
one
The,
out.
the lightning bolt.
Oh, was that what it was?
Yes. No, I think he's wearing an earring earlier in the film.
All right.
That's what we said.
Oh, I was looking at your wife motioning to slap you.
Katie, it's okay. He's normally a dick.
Yeah, there you go.
So we are given the question, what's going to happen on Monday? And
I love this scene.
it's
Yep.
it's the most powerful scene of the movie, and you know, everybody is now laid bare, and they are looking at them not as stereotypes, but instead we are now looking at each other as people that we can relate to, that each one of them can relate to each one of those other characters.
And I think it's because of this conversation that they have that come Monday, I think they do say hi to each other, or at least acknowledge
do
the
too.
existence of the
Acknowledge
other.
each
Well, in a deleted scene, I'm just kidding.
Oh my god, I was gonna say another deleted scene.
but
Thank you, Katie. That's what I think all the time he opens his mouth.
That is the big debate, though. That do you really think that they were friendly after this movie? Or do you think they went right back to their?
I like to think that they were.
I think they were.
So, well, I was going to save that for a little bit later, but I guess we could do it now. 1 month later, where do you think each one of these characters are with each other? Are Bender and Claire still together? Yep.
No.
I don't think they are.
A month later?
1 month
No.
later.
No, probably not.
I
I think that lasts like a couple weeks, and then
that's what I think too.
There
and
is
then it wears
so
off.
much pressure on kids in high school, and like when we were in high school, I think she went right back to her friends and feeling the peer pressure and the cliques. I'm guessing Andrew might have been a little friendly with them. I think Ali Sheedy's character and Brian were very friendly.
Definitely Brian.
I don't think Bender and Andy probably got along after that. I don't think that Bender and Brian got along. You know, it'd be very hard for them.
Man, you're jumping way too fast. So what about Andy and Allison? Are they together 1 month later?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
If she kind of, because she,
Katie, what do you think?
I think, yeah.
I think
Because she's the type of girl that could just fall right into his clique and just be his arm candy.
Out of all of these characters, I think through the rest of the school year, which one of these characters stays connected with each one of the others?
I think it only comes down to, okay, so Andrew and Allison, they're going to run into their problems and they're going to break up eventually. I think the only relationships that kind of last is Brian and Bender. I think every once in a while Brian will say hi to Bender, and Bender will acknowledge him. He'll say okay. And every once in a while, you could probably even throw Andrew in there. If Andrew's not around his asshole friends, let's say like a James Spader from Pretty in Pink, he'd get a hi out of him, right? But if he was around a larger group of people and all the football wrestling team, I think he kind of acknowledges him but blows him off in the same sentence.
I got to think that Allison and Andy had the best chance of staying together, and that Allison was the one that was going to be friendly to all the characters. She was going to be the bridge between all the characters.
Oh, I can see that too. I can see Allison trying to be friends with the rest of
I
them.
see the same thing out of Brian as well. Allison and Brian, I think but through the end of the school year, will have a relationship with each one of those characters regardless of what's going on in their lives.
Sure, I'll buy that. I'll buy that.
Now, something that we've talked about earlier, who do you identify most with? Which of the characters?
Oh, I got a better game. Who do you think we identify most with?
Should we write this down?
No, so
Wait, what?
Well, why don't you start,
so
Don?
I don't want to start.
Something before we do this game.
Katie should start.
Oh,
Wait,
that's a
I
good
want to
one.
say something before we start this
Okay.
game. You know how everyone else kisses somebody except for Brian?
Yeah.
Did anyone pick up that Brian kissed the paper?
Yes.
And I was like, that's who he's kissing?
Nice catch.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That
Because he was
all
so
I wanted to
proud of
say.
it, right? That was his work. And Claire kind of breaks it down for him, right? And she goes, well, you are the smartest of us. And she appeases to his ego.
Totally.
And he was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
But education is his love.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
love
And the
that
little
part.
shoulder punch.
And he made that essay his bitch, so yeah.
Yeah. There you go. All right, Katie.
Who do I identify you guys as?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is gonna be fun.
John?
No.
Don?
It's like,
Dad?
oh my god, you're so annoying.
That's
Okay.
Professor Dad.
Dad professor. I I feel like you obviously are just like a wisecrack. So you're kind of like Bender because you like to break the rules. And I feel like you want me to say that.
Well, he is kind of a criminal. So
But
yeah.
I also feel like you're kind of the jock too, because you're kind of prickly. Versus Bender kind of engages with everybody, but like the jock didn't want to. And if you don't like someone, you just ignore them.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And then you are definitely. See, I feel like he's Brian and you're Allie.
So
So I'm
Over
Allison.
here.
I'm Allison.
so the professor is Allison.
Like a little bit, because you just crack me up, and you're like, so you know everything. That's like the opposite, I feel like, of what you guys would have thought I said.
I'm in the math club and the physics
Yeah,
club.
you're also maybe Brian too, because you like take notes when you watch football.
Katie, who do you most relate to?
Probably Brian or Allie.
Oh,
I would say
my,
Brian,
no.
but I don't want to
No,
say
no,
I would ever kill myself. That's
no.
the only thing.
No, because you're not either of those people.
Oh, you think I'm
You
Claire.
are without you are without a shadow of a doubt Claire. As soon as I watched it and I was watching it and I look at him, I go, oh my God, that's Katie. And you know what line it was that really,
What was it?
I am so popular. I can't even tell you how popular I
said that to me 2
am.
hours ago. I go, give me 3 words to describe your life. And she goes, school, popular. I'm like, you're popular? She goes, a little bit.
Yeah, so everything about it, even the opening scene when she's trying to, convince her dad. I've seen you try to convince your dad of many things. A lot of times, you are Claire, which is funny because if I had to pick your brother, he's definitely Scott Pilgrim. So I have now casted both of you in the films that I need to.
Totally.
But that is not an insult to say that someone is like Claire. Claire turned out at the end to be very caring, very open, and the person I think who could end up growing the most.
She's so annoying.
At that,
But notice she goes and be friendly to Allison at the end and helps Allison out. She's willing to, relate to Bender.
but you also said that she's the first one to go back to her old
I
life.
do think the peer pressure could get to her.
Right.
But I also notice that when she's not around that peer pressure, she's the one who can grow the most.
Mm-hmm.
She has the most potential, I felt like.
Do you feel like I'm Claire too? Because you're my dad, so you would know.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Princess.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now you guys do
Now-
each other.
And that's not wrong or bad, Katie.
You
I'm just
are
saying that's
imitating him, aren't
that's
you, by saying that?
That's just how it goes.
Oh,
that's
my
just
God.
how it goes. That's just how it goes.
I will go next in that, Don, you were obviously Bender in the
Yeah.
idea of not so much that you're a criminal, but in that
Racist.
you can be the nicest person in the world and also just jab that knife into someone the next second. You have that quality of, I just have to wonder what your home life is like, is all I can say.
There was one time you were teaching our school elective. I need to stop acting like people can see us because I'm pointing and no one can see us. That's an at you to get the film going. But one time you were doing a school elective, and then this really, I'm not going to say her name, this girl that many people did not favor her company or enjoy her company. She left the room to go to the bathroom, and you go, who doesn't like this girl? Raise your hand. Everyone in the whole classroom raises their hand.
Who did that?
You did. And then everyone was like, oh, the teacher's like, oh, you don't like her either. And then she comes back, and we all were like, no one's going to say anything.
I don't recall that ever happening, so I'm going to go ahead and just call bullshit.
It was a small group, so it wasn't like he was saying this in front of 50 children.
Oh, there's no defense.
I wasn't there, so I couldn't.
Well, no
tell you.
shit. I wouldn't have said it if you were in the room.
Yeah, but we were in his classroom. We were in the portable. I don't know where he was because he was the other teacher for that course.
I know. Every time I had to show up and teach, he was never there.
Yeah, that's so annoying.
All right. So you had said that I was like Bender. Go on.
The professor, Brian, which isn't an insult because I would put myself in the same Brian category. And I agree with you, Katie, I don't know you as well, but I feel potentially you have a lot of Claire qualities.
Is it just because of the red hair?
That doesn't
Because I
hurt.
feel like that might be why you're identifying me with that. It's
'Cause
really
I
because of
don't,
her
I don't see you
personality.
as the misfit. I don't see you as kind of the loner. I see you every time I've ever seen you at like one of Professor's gatherings. You've always got friends around you.
I'm
Always
so popular.
and
You're so conceited, Claire.
And
You're so
you're,
conceited.
you're a very outgoing person, so I can see that you'd have very Claire qualities.
All right. You're up, sir.
Well, we've all definitively determined that Katie is Claire. I think that John is Brian. I think that Don, you have a tendency to have a little bit of Bender in your blood. And for me, I think that I have some characteristics of Allison and some characteristics of Brian.
You called me out when I called you that.
Yeah, because I don't think it's as prevalent. I don't identify myself in any one of those characters, but I certainly remember watching the movie in the theater thinking, man, I remember feeling just like that.
Sure.
That's why this movie is so great, because you can relate with how they feel, not necessarily their personalities.
There you go. All right. Is there anything else you guys want to say before we rate this bitch?
I do want to bring up that there's not a whole lot of highly successful movies that take place in one location. And I guess in film terminology, that's called a chamber film. I didn't realize that. I just learned that. Films that take place primarily in one location. Can you name some other movies that were successful that pretty much consist in one location?
12 Angry Men.
That is probably the most famous. Can you name any, Don?
The Room.
What is The Room?
Yeah, it's not on your little list. The Room was an Academy Award winning...
Do you mean Room?
Room? What did I say?
The Room.
What's the difference?
Isn't one
word?
a horribly pan?
No. It's the one with Brie Larson and
Yeah,
she's trapped.
Yeah, don't give it away.
Why? We say spoilers.
No, but if he's never... I just feel like...
It's a drama. He will never watch it.
Oh, you're not a drama.
Does it have music in it?
No, it doesn't actually. Or anybody in a cape, so
I'm
you're not
out.
going to enjoy it.
Is that based on a true story, that movie?
Yeah, it's loosely
that's
based on
terrible.
that. Yeah. All right, before we go ahead and rate this bitch, most rewatchable scene, Katie.
Probably the one where they all get high and they're going through her bag.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Professor?
The therapy session at the end.
Yeah.
You? What about you, Don?
Most rewatchable for me is probably the therapy session at the end. I really like the bit where Anthony Michael Hall says, are you even going to say hi to us on Monday? And they're like, no. Mm-hmm. And just the real and rawness of that scene, because that is so high school. That really captured a lot of what they were trying to say in this film. And so, a lot of heart, a lot of emotion, and yeah, that's probably the most rewatchable scene for me.
John, what about you?
I'm guessing you guys would think that'd be the musical scene, but no, that was not the one that jumps out. The one that I always think about.
They weren't singing.
I know, but they're playing music.
Do you like music?
I think he doesn't understand the definition of musical anymore.
I said
either.
the musical scene. But anyway, the scene that always sticks with me that I go back to and I think about when I think about this movie is when Bender's getting all the detentions.
Yeah, see, I think I'd have to change mine too. I just thought, as I was saying that, I'm like, wait, that's pretty. You want another one? Yes. I mean, that's probably my favorite.
Ken clarified it earlier. What really gets me is when Vernon walks out the door and the door slams and you hear the "fuck you." That's the one that sticks with me. Do we want to rate this?
Yeah, let's go.
Can you guys explain your rating?
We rate on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 being the movie that you have just walked out of the theater and you say to yourself, "Man, I'm ready to watch that movie again right now."
Oh.
A 1 is a movie where you have seen it and you don't know if you're ever going to want to see that movie ever again. It's one and done. There is zero desire to ever see it again. A 3 is somewhere in the middle where you're saying to yourself, yeah, I'll watch that again. You don't know how soon, but if somebody wants to fire it up, maybe someday you own the movie.
And a 0?
A 0 is you are telling anybody that is within earshot that somebody owes you 2 hours of your life back.
Have you guys ever given a 0?
Yes.
I'm the only one.
Your father has.
Is it for Moulin Rouge?
No.
Because he was telling anybody
no.
within earshot that he hated that.
No, I don't believe that was the
What
one.
was it?
I think it was the original Texas or the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, wasn't it?
No, that was a 0.5.
No, he gave 0 to the original Friday the 13th.
Correcto. Correctamundo.
It's like you guys are dating.
So you would watch Moulin Rouge before Friday the 13th.
There you
That
go.
is a bold statement, sir. I don't think I would. Though what did I give Moulin Rouge? Like a fucking 1.5 or something.
I think you guys all gave it under 3s.
Not me.
No, you loved it.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
All right, hit us.
I don't mind. So I think that this is a movie that is very much a part of my nostalgia of growing up. It is one of the pillars, and I have a huge amount of nostalgia watching this movie. I think that it still works after all this time in how the characters are developed. It feels a little awkward in today's settings with how much Bender is being sexually aggressive towards Claire. And so that does feel a little bit more awkward in today's settings. That is something that was more accepted back when the movie was made and not as accepted as it is now. So that does feel a little more awkward today. The characters develop, and I enjoyed immensely looking at the stereotypes that Vernon can't get past when he looks at each one of these students. And yet these students are able to have one of the most satisfying experiences, most likely, of their high school time. Most likely. That I'm guessing that none of them will ever look at the library. These characters will never look at the library in the same way again, because it was a very unique, special experience that they had with each other. Now, granted, we discussed it's probably not going to be lasting, but I do feel a great sense of, I don't know if it's hope, but it's weird. It's a Saturday morning detention, and yet, at the end of the movie, you feel like that, like some sort of a battle was won or something like that. It's just, what is up with that? And, and the music playing at the end, it just feels so satisfying.
And Bender being like, see you next Saturday, Carl.
And having this happen, it's just Saturday detention, though. And having that happen, it is just so uplifting the way that the story ends. I get behind these characters wholeheartedly. And I really enjoyed watching us being able to learn about each one of them. I don't mind watching this movie. I think it's a solid 4.
There you go. A 4 from the professor. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, I have to agree with the professor 100%. The nostalgia level of this film has staying power in that it doesn't matter if you saw it the first time in 1985, you saw it last week, it still has the same effect. You still enjoy it, I think, just as much as the first time you saw it. It also, I feel like, even like from the first time you saw this movie, it has so much quotable dialogue that everybody seems to know a quote from this movie. Even if they haven't seen the movie, you can say a quote and they'll know what movie it came from. I was having a little trouble figuring out what exactly my rating would be on this, in that this is not a movie that I want to rush out and watch all the time. But if you put it on or I find it on TV, I don't know if I'd watch the edited version on TV, but if I have the opportunity to see it, I'm going to watch it. I'm really glad we got this submission because I enjoyed watching it again. I've probably seen this movie dozens of times. And again, I enjoyed it just as much this time as I did, the first few times. Professor, you brought up a great point of some of the things don't work so well in this day and age. And with the Me Too movement, Molly Ringwald did an interview in which she said that she regrets a lot of the scenes in this movie. There was sexual harassment. There was that scene under the table, whether it was, a stunt double or not. People assumed it happened to Claire. And that would have been something that would have actually gotten Bender expelled in this day and age. He would have had charges pressed against him. So there was a lot of that going on. That's a little bit iffy, but everything else in the movie is just magic. So, like I said, I don't know if I would watch this movie all the time, but I would never turn down watching it. So I'm going to go with Professor's 4.0, and I'm also giving it a 4.
Oh, there you go. Do you have a rating for this?
5.
Okay, you're going to give it a 5, but you've seen it 3 times.
I don't think that matters. I think the fact that if you love it that much, it doesn't matter how many times you've seen it.
Yeah, it's because it's like I don't have access to it. It wasn't on any streaming services.
Oh, no. I'm sorry, Claire. Did you actually have to go and rent it?
No, I pirated it because I was locked on my mom's Amazon account.
You know what I would like?
She changes the password because I will press purchase on items she did not approve.
Katie, why do you give this movie a 5?
I'm so glad you asked, comic book guy. John.
Now I'm feeling respected.
He's like feeling his like sweatshirt. I think I'd give it a 5 because no matter like when I am surprised that I haven't seen it in so long. So I think it is strange that I like it how much I do, and I haven't watched it that many times. If it was more at my fingertips, I would have seen it more times. I just think I love movies like this where there's no action and there's no over-the-top Marvel crap, because it really emphasizes the writing and the storytelling, and you don't need that much for a good story. I just feel so overwhelmed by so many of the films in today's media that this is just so refreshing because it's so bare-boned and it's that good. And there's something for everybody, and I love the characters, I love the music. What's not to like?
Well, there you go. All right. So thank you for your 5 rating. It won't go into the overall rating, but it's nice to know that, it's nice to know what you think. So,
and it might influence you.
It doesn't. Okay. So my rating of The Breakfast Club, 1985, started the Brat Pack, the soundtrack, the writing is outstanding, and the message of the film is timeless, like we had said. Yes, there are some things that do not age well, but you're going to get that when you go back and look at the films from the 80s, 90s, and probably even the early 2000s, right? So that's always going to be a factor, and that's always going to play into how well the film plays. Even that being said, even with these iffy moments of the film, sure, you feel uncomfortable for a moment or two, but the writing will pull you back in, and we keep progressing along. I felt the film was very well paced, and again, I was surprised that it came in at an hour and a half, right? The Simple Minds tune, and just the few tracks that they did use for this film, I think they all work in every way. They were perfectly cast. If we were talking about who could play who back then, there's a list of actors and blah blah blah, but it wouldn't have been the same movie. If you were casting it now today, if they remade this movie, I'd be very disappointed. There are certain films I feel like in history should never be remade, ever. And I do believe that The Breakfast Club is one of them. Yes, it is relatable. Yes, they probably could update it, but the message and the core would all stay the same, right? Back to the Future is another one. And, of course, Jaws. So, that all being said, I am going to give The Breakfast Club a 4.5 because it is in my top 10. So, there you go.
Not to interrupt you, because are you done?
I was just going to interrupt.
Go ahead, Katie.
I was just going to say, I think I might have to add in, I just forgot how great a movie Back to the Future is, so that might be in my top 3 over Step Brothers. But Step Brothers is so funny.
You don't say that.
See, I was surprised you didn't include Back to the Future.
I kind of forgot it. I just watched Step Brothers, that's why.
So, it's fresh in your head.
Yeah.
All right, so now comes the time in our podcast where we are going to select our next film.
Can I do it?
I was just going to say, Katie, would you like to select the next film?
Of course.
All right, so go ahead and give that a shake. This is going to be our 4th fan pick, and we are pulling out...
Trent 90s Zach.
What's it say?
Trent 90s Zach.
Is that the listener?
Zach has submitted it?
Zach
Is
submitted
Trent
it.
90s
No, what is the letters?
TREM.
TMNT.
Yes.
What?
He wants us
Which
to do
one?
the one from the 90s.
The first
Really?
one. Yeah.
The Teenage
Mutant
Mutant
Ninja
Ninja Turtles, the
Oh.
original.
All right, so thanks to our true believer, Zach, for recommending the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990. Hey, John, where can they find us?
They can find us at our website, threeguysinaFlick.com. They can find us at most popular and even a few unpopular podcasting hosting sites, including Spotify, iTunes. We are on every place that I can find to put us. We are on Instagram. We are on Twitter. We are on Facebook. We are on Tumblr. We're not quite yet on TikTok, but I feel like that might change soon. I believe that is all the places they can find us.
All right, so there you have it. I just want to thanks again to Tatiana for recommending The Breakfast Club. We had a lot of fun reviewing that. Thanks to Katie for coming on to our show.
Thank you for letting me be on the podcast. This was such a blast.
That's going to wrap it up for Three Guys in a Flick. I'm Don.
I'm John.
And I'm Ken. We'll see all of you next Saturday.
And I'm Katie. Thanks for listening.
It's a solid 4.
There you go. A 4 from the professor. We don't interrupt the ratings, young lady,
Wait, we don't
because it takes these two 12 minutes apiece. Ask me how I know that. I know that because I have to edit these motherfuckers and I have to listen to this shit all the fucking time. So we do not interrupt the ratings.
Asshole.
Usually what I do is I just whisper, asshole.
Asshole ASMR.
You need to start listening to more of them because we
I don't
start to
listen
argue
to
more.
all of
I know you don't listen to all of them.
How
That's
would
why I
you know
said
that?
I interrupt all the time and
Yeah.
he gives me the same lecture.
Yeah. It's hard not to interrupt.
no. It's not. It's pretty fucking easy. It's called closing your mouth. The Breakfast Club. We had a lot of fun reviewing that. Thanks to Katie for coming on to our show and living.
And now playing with her phone.
Totally. And
flint
did
in
you
my
just hear the
charging
fucking?
thing.
I have to edit all this shit. It's bad enough I have to edit your father, and it's bad enough that I have to
sorry.
edit this fucker over here. Now I got to edit you too.
I'm
You're
sorry.
fucking killing me, as per fucking
I know,
always.
I've
You're
been
fucking
moving-
killing me.
I moved the movie around the
Asshole.
whole podcast.
Oh my God, where was I?